Sis, we just wrapped up day 2. How are you feeling today? Are you weary? Are you excited? Was the fast hard for you? Is it, just kind of sweat off your back? Comment down below and let me know. Or respond to this email, let me know as well. But I wanted to dive into the concept of surrender a little bit more today and why surrendering is so important. So to surrender means to yield your power, your authority, or your control of something, to intentionally forego it for the benefit or under the control or authority of someone or something else. And so when I think of our souls and surrendering our souls, that's something that we struggle with as humans. God wants us to rest in him. God wants us to trust him. And with trust comes surrender. You relinquish the need to have your hand on the wheel. You relinquish the need to always have to figure it out, and that's not to say that you don't figure things out. That's not to say that you don't put your hands on the plow. You don't get the job done. Like, we have to work. We have to do things. We have to have critical thinking skills, all the things, right? But to surrender, it's like, God, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to push and do the most, and try to take the wheel and try to take your spot. I'm going to allow you to lead me. So a good example, like more tangible example of this, is that since last December, God has been speaking to me about resting in him more. I just kept hearing rest. And so I actually did a New Year's video challenge on YouTube with a couple other YouTube creators, some that I've known for a minute and others that I've just kind of recently met. And we all were sharing a word for the year 2024. And I shared my video on rest and how God is calling us to rest more in 2024 and all the things. And let me tell you, God has been sitting me down all year. He has forced me to surrender all year long. It started from, planning certain events for KGC in Q1 into Q2, all the way through, some may or may not know, but I lost my father this year. So surrendering to that whole life after such a close case of bereavement. This is the closest experience to death I've ever had in my life, with someone so close to me. And, as a mom and my plans, literally just surrender, let it go. Let me handle it. And it's scary to do it at first, because coming from a recovering control freak, someone who is I'll do it. I got it. Ain't nobody gonna get it done like me, It's scary to be in a position of surrender. God, you really gonna handle this? Because the thing about God, I don't know about y'all. I don't know about you, sis, but God be taking the long way around for me. He doesn't always move super quick. People that be having them quick testimonies, oh, I left it in God's hands and it was just bam, in less than 24 hours, that thing came through. No, God's going to wait until the 11th hour for me. And to be honest, I'm kind of tired of it. I'm people be oh, that's because you're one of God's strongest soldiers. Take me off the list. I am tired. I am weary. I done did my time. Okay. I'm ready to get them quick testimonies, those quick turnarounds. And so all of that, when you factor it in, can be scary, because ooh, who knows, but if I really stop and think, it's when has he ever let me down? Even if it didn't turn out exactly how I had prayed and asked and hoped for, it turned out the way it was supposed to, and even better. And so our soul is simply our mind, will, and emotions. Because sometimes when you hear soul, you're dang, how do I surrender my soul? What is my soul? Where is it? What is it? Why am I surrendering it? But your soul is merely your mind, your will, and your emotions. So when you're surrendering your mind to Christ, that means that you are being renewed in your mind. You're being renewed by a relationship with Christ, by being in your word, by talking to him. And talking to him is simply praying. And praying is simply exactly how I'm talking to y'all right now. You can talk to God. You don't have to put on airs with God. He knows you. He created you. Surrendering your will is saying God, this is what I would like to happen, but ultimately thy will be done. So even though I might want to, let's say, go to this concert, just keep it simple. If you don't want me to go, then I just won't go. And if he doesn't make the provisions for it and you can't go without it being, a low-key kind of foolish decision, then you just accept that. Or God, if you want me to stay in this job, even though I absolutely hate it, then your will be done. Surrendering your will for God's will. Surrendering your emotions is your character, in other words, so surrendering your character, and that's only going to come and be pruned the closer you are to Christ. So the more you spend time with Christ, the more you commune with him, the more you're going to look like him, the more you're going to talk like him, the more you're going to sound like him, the more you're going to be able to regulate your emotions and not just be flaring up on people, not be impatient. Okay. listen, I'm not the most patient person, but I have come a far way. And lack of patience is a fruit that needs to be grown. You know, you can't just be out here spazzing on folks, sis. You can't just be out here like going left, you know. So patience is truly a virtue, you know. Just having having the spiritual gifts, having certain characteristics where it's like, okay, yeah, being kind, you know. Kindness doesn't mean that you're a doormat, but it means that you have a spirit of like warmth about you, you know, like you can break that ice with people and they feel seen, you know. So all of those are just two examples of the spiritual gifts, but that's what surrendering your soul looks like. Saying, Lord, you can have my thoughts. Make my thoughts your thoughts. You can have my emotions. You know, let me respond to things how you would want me to. Let me regulate my emotions. You know, let me have self-control. That's another spirit, a gift of the spirit, you know, like, or fruit of the spirit, I should say. So it's like, let me surrender my will to yours, because ultimately you know all and thy will be done. So as we continue on with this fast, and as you just reflect on how you spent your day too, did you surrender well? And if you didn't, don't beat yourself up. You know, you still got 29 more days, sis, and you got the rest of your life to get this right. So don't beat yourself up, you know. But if you didn't surrender well, start right now. Make the decision like, I'm going to surrender. I don't have to respond to things the way I do. I don't have to treat people the way I do. I don't have to think the way that I do. God can renew me. He really can renew me, and he could do a new work within me. And I'm going to surrender my soul to him so he can do that. So let's reflect on that in day 2. And I will talk to you in day 3, sis. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of For My Sisters with Del podcast. Don't forget to keep the conversation going and use the hashtag For My Sisters Pod on social media so I can see you and show you some love. If there are any topics you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, be sure to email formysisterspodcast@gmail.com. I'll see you on the next episode. Love you. Bye.